Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 10,020, written by Blank Books. The multiverse is losing track of our things. I've been an enthusiast follower of glitch in the Matrix stories for a while, as simulation theories and such are extremely fascinating. I never thought I would experience something though. Disclaimer, I was not under the influence of any substances when any of this took place. I live alone and have alarms in my home. I smoke plant mass regularly, 3 to 4 times a week, and clean my grinder every month. I'm medically diagnosed with OCD and know where everything is at all times. I was cleaning my grinder last night, and I have 2 small white trays to scoop it with. I dropped one in my kitchen on dark gray tile and couldn't find it despite the color and how small my kitchen is. I looked and looked and looked as it seemingly vanished. After not finding it, I proceeded to clean the rest of my stuff. This morning, it was on the opposite side of my counter where I keep a lighter, my grinder, and the keef scooper things in a drawer. It was just sitting on the counter that I had looked at and walked past after losing it last night several times. This probably seems small, but I'm literally shaking as I type this. There is no logical way it could have ended up there. Something finally happened to me, and I don't know how to feel. All doors locked. I live alone in a single-level home, and my sister and girlfriend have a key to my home, but both are out of town. Ring cameras and Arlo cameras inside didn't catch anything. Case notes are filed 10,020. The multiverse is losing track of our things? My impression is that the universe operates on a point-based system of quantized energy. Electrons have their shells, and they can only operate in specific quantized versions or orbits. Discrete packets of energy like photons, everything is packaged neat and tightly. So it makes sense to a computer to store information. Even though we can't get to that information, because observation from the simulation, anything inside of it, changes the state of whatever we're observing. From above it, it may be possible that they can track everything, and maybe sometimes there's still errors, and because of those errors, there's things that can happen like this, where objects derender, eventually are found and corrected, and they reappear. That would be my guess in what's happening most of the time. I think it's possible that there's also intentional derenders, maybe to mess with us, prank with us, maybe to affect our decision-making process in the moment. Things like that I think are quite common. But it's just information and corrective measures taken by the real world's supercomputer. Case file number 10,021, written by Bigger on the Inside, 42. The never-ending supply of mac and cheese. This is ridiculous, but I have no explanation. A while back, I bought a set of vintage craft mac and cheese promo watches from a yard sale. One was triangle-shaped and one was rectangle. This is important. I recently sold those watches on my Etsy store. I remember grabbing them out of the drawer and we shipped them off, no problem. Not long after, I got a message from the buyer saying they got the watches, but that they got 2 triangle watches and really wanted the rectangle one. He even sent a photo as proof. I checked the listing and the photo shows 1 triangle and 1 rectangle watch. So how did the buyer get 2 triangle watches? I go back and check the drawer and sure enough, there is a rectangle watch in there, but there were only ever 2 watches to begin with, not 3. I asked my store partner if he remembered more than 2 watches, and he didn't. He clearly remembers me buying 2 watches. Okay, weird, but whatever. I shipped the rectangle watch to the buyer, and all is well. Until today. My partner was filling orders this morning and found another rectangle watch in the drawer. So essentially, we ended up with 2 sets of watches, 2 triangles and 2 rectangles. But the listing only showed a quantity of 1 set, and we both only remember buying 1 set. Do I just have a never-ending supply of vintage craft mac and cheese promo watches now? Case notes are filed 10,021. The never-ending supply of mac and cheese. You know, it's curious, even though most people probably know I hate cheese now. As a kid, I didn't mind mac and cheese. Now, I can't do it, but maybe it's because they don't put much real cheese in it. It's mostly a fake powder. Nutritious yeast, I don't know what they use. But yeah, it just tasted kind of salty, I guess. But yeah, I would say this is just another duplication event. So derender, reappearance, and duplication. The duplications probably apply from other universes, the multiverse. where copies of items in those universes are mistakenly restored, but only in the wrong universe, basically. And if that's true, then in another universe, there's a customer that didn't receive any watches at all. And he's a bit annoyed, because they just don't exist in that universe. Bonus file, written by Sanibel98. My 200-year-old church is haunted. The church campus consists of the sanctuary, the office, an empty, decrepit house where the priest used to live that was later used as a meeting space until it was condemned, and a cemetery with the oldest graves being those of War of 1812 soldiers. All the buildings have stone exteriors. A priest died in the house in the late 1800s. He was old, so nothing nefarious there, but he still haunts the place, which seems odd to me since he was a priest and obviously believed in heaven, the afterlife. Why stick around? When I first started working there, I was in the office with a member of the congregation who told me that on several occasions, when they left the old house and turned off all the lights, they would turn around and see the lights that had been switched back on inside, through the windows. I believed in the paranormal even then, and have had an experience myself, so I was intrigued. When I left the office that day by myself, I turned off the lights. At the last light switch, I felt almost an electric buzz surge through my finger. The office itself is old, so it wouldn't have surprised me if something wasn't grounded right, etc. Didn't think anything unusual about it. I went back to my desk to grab my things and lock the door, and the light switch I had turned off was on. Keep in mind, this was the same day as when I found out about the priest. I've tried asking him again to show me any sign that he's there, but he's never done anything else in the 4 years I've been working there. But without asking, I've seen flashes of light in a dark, windowless room. I'm not sure if it was pareidolia, but I saw a man cross in front of my headlights and disappear. He had dark hair and was wearing a white shirt. One time, I unlocked the deadbolt on the door to the church, and when I went to turn the knob to go inside, something turned it the opposite way in my hand. This was during lockdown, so definitely no one was inside. I ran. I've seen motion detector lights outside turn on by themselves, and when I've jumped in front of them waving my hands, they've never come on. I've heard this one from my boss who's a priest. The organist was practicing by themselves in the church when a pencil went flying across the room. My boss also told me that members have said they've seen the priest looking out of the windows of the house. The decrepit house is supposed to be torn down within the next year or two. I'm not sure how or if that will affect the priest who won't leave. Maybe he finally will. Case notes for the bonus file. My 200-year-old church is haunted. They say that if you have unfinished business, you're more likely to remain behind as a fragment. There's a stronger wave in the ocean that's left behind, so it'll still ripple out no matter what, but I think if the unfinished business is completed, then maybe the waves impact on the hard surface and dissipate more quickly. Something like that. You ever have like that when you go on vacation or you travel somewhere far, and you have in the back of your head, did I lock the door? Did I turn off the stove? Think of that as unfinished business, but just amplified, 100-fold or something. This desperate need to have closure in your life, something that you didn't complete or you missed, or someone that you didn't say you loved, or something along those lines. Well, this is what I expect is happening here with spirits and ghosts. And of course, if the unfinished business, if you're a bad person, well, the unfinished business could be something that's impossible to complete. Like if Hitler had a spirit lingering behind, we'd all hope that his spirit wouldn't be able to finish his task, just fade away. I do wonder how it all ties together with quantum immortality, the afterlife, simulation theory. Whatever ends up being true, maybe there's all parts of it that are true and they combine into something different than what we expect. You could see multiple universes where, if you're a spirit, you're just a tiny fragment of their soul left behind, the imprint of who they were. Like if you're on a bed, on a mattress that's soft, and you get up, the mattress springs back, but it takes time. And I think that's basically the idea of what I'm thinking a spirit is. And this one is very old, so maybe the imprint he left behind on the universe was very potent. And because of that, it takes a long time to fade away, to be restored. Now maybe, breaking down the old building will help to reset the mattress of the universe. I hope so. I hope he finds his peace. And now time for the quote of the day, the mark of an educated mind, to entertain a thought without accepting it. Aristotle, It's how we can steelman other people's positions. I think the best way to argue and have discourse with other people is to try to understand their positions. I think a lot of people are afraid to do that now. They think that even conceiving of someone else's idea or position will somehow infect them. But that's a terrible mindset if you ask me. We have to be able to consider other possibilities, ideas, even if they're wrong, even if they're disgusting in some ways. Unless you're able to do that, then you're operating on a position that your current mindset and worldview and opinions are infallible. There's no possibility that anything else is correct. And so if you talk with someone else, you're not actually trying to have a discourse with them. You're just saying, I have to win. I have to beat them because they're wrong. There's no way they're not. It's a very dangerous mindset. And sadly, I think a lot of people are falling prey to it. How do you fix that? Like the video, subscribe. Kinetic Symphony signing off.